morning of October 7th began as a quiet, sleepy Shabbat morning. I was at home in Jerusalem with my wife, Ronnie, and our 2-year-old son when the sirens blared. We rushed down to the bomb shelter with our neighbors, struggling to understand what was happening. As the hours passed, the reports started to coming in, and with them the realization that this was not just a war, this was a massacre. The first images of hostages appeared, children clinging to their parents as they were loaded onto Hamas trucks, taken to Gaza like cattle. I'd been called into work, the ER where I served as a specialist emergency doctor, an hour from Otef Aza, was quickly overwhelmed. The wounded poured in from the Nova Festival massacre from the front lines, ambushed commando soldiers, badly hurt and fighting to stay alive. Then another call came, this time from a unit in the IDF. You need to come in, they said. I had a choice to make. Go to the ER, which was collapsing under the weight of the wounded, or report to the army, which was in desperate need for frontline medics. I decided to go to the army. As I set out, I was filled with a sense of mission. There was great pride in wearing the IDF uniform and solidarity among the people on the street. I packed my bag and said goodbye to my wife and son, unsure of when I would see them again and when. She begged me not to go, not to leave them alone, but I had no choice. I left home, stuck out my hand, and the first car that stopped was driven by a Mossad agent. He was in shock, repeating to himself over and over, I can't believe this is happening. At the base, the chaos was overwhelming. Alongside other medics and paramedics, we quickly organized a system to evacuate the wounded. We knew medicine, but carrying stretchers under fire, navigating battle zones, that was something we hadn't done in years. We entered Gaza. I couldn't believe it. At 37, with 2-year-old son at home, I was back on the battlefield. After a week without a shower, barely eating, and missing my family desperately, the mental toll was heavy. My wife was fighting her own battle, managing work, parenting alone, and living in fear of that knock on the door delivering the worst news. The news that too many families have received since the nightmare began. After 6 weeks, a knock did come on my wife's door, but it was me standing there. My unit had been hit, a missile struck our vehicle. Fortunately, we were unharmed, but our vehicle was destroyed. I was released from duty and sent home. I returned to the ER, another front line. Wounded soldiers arrived daily, and every case carried its own tragedy. There was a strong sense of mission in the ER as well, but there were too many heartbreaking moments when soldiers arrived with serious injuries. I especially remember one young, strong soldier from special unit who arrived fighting to stay alive. After desperate efforts, he crashed, and we had to call him his time of death. A great conflict came just a few hours later when I was called to treat a Nukhba terrorist who was brought in. We faced many conflicts in this war, and even among us soldiers, there was debates. Some believed we needed to be in Gaza to pressure Hamas to release the hostages. Others feared we were endangering them, that only negotiated deals would bring them home. Back at the hospital, the mental scars of this war ran just as deep. A Nova survivor was pulled over by police months after the massacre. Terrified, he tried to run, believing Hamas was coming for him again. He arrived at the ER in the middle of a panic attack, reliving the horror of that day. This war is unlike any before it. We continue to battle on multiple fronts, on the field, in the hospital, and in our own minds. One night, while leading a shift in the ER, we found ourselves under a massive attack from Iran. Rockets fell as we worked to save lives. But despite everything, we continue. Israel is strong. Israel will survive, rebuild, and thrive. But true healing can only begin when every last hostage is returned. For this, we need you Jews from Israel and around the world to keep fighting for the return until the very last one is home. Am Israel Chai.